Well, good morning, everyone. Jeff Burns here from Atrium. We're here to talk about business transformation with an AI-driven forecast. When we think about the business transformation part of that, it's not just about getting to an accurate forecast. It's about how are we really optimizing across our entire demand funnel? How are we driving our win rate? How are we getting better visibility to our invisible bookings, be that through channel or pipeline that does not yet exist? And how are we driving accountability across our field teams, our customer teams, to act as advocates and quarterbacks on behalf of our customers? And so we really think very broadly when we think about how we can transform our business with an AI-driven forecast. So let's go over to Salesforce. And here I am. I'm looking at my global dashboard. I'm looking at Einstein Analytics embedded within Salesforce. And there are a couple things that jump out to me immediately. All right? So I can see that for the year so far, we have a closed won of about 365 million on a quota of 526. My Einstein weighted pipeline is coming in at 461 million. And that's interesting because my total field forecast right now is at 550. All right? So that's a pretty big difference. But Einstein's also telling me that there's probably another 64 million that'll come in there, either from distribution, from commerce channels, from different channels that the sales team may not currently have visibility to, or via pipeline that just does not exist yet in Salesforce. So while that's interesting, I still have a pretty big discrepancy between my 461 and my 550, and I'm getting pretty late in the quarter, right? So that's making me a little bit nervous. And so I'm going to want to really drill in there and make sure that I understand where we're going to end up for the quarter. And so what I'll do now is I'll look across my regions, and predictably, because all my sales reps they're all optimistic. That's why we hire them. That's an attribute of success for a sales rep. I can see that my sales organization is pretty optimistic about hitting the number, right? Across all the different regions, we're kind of right there at our quota line. Now, as I look across our products, it tells a little bit of a different story. Looks like accessories is doing, a little bit under the forecast. I can see that digital media, laptops, and phones seem to be tracking well. I got a huge gap on tablets, so that's interesting. And then as I look at the bottom of my dashboard here, I can see the comparisons at the region level. I can see what my region forecasts are. I can see what my Einstein weighted forecasts are. And I can start to see those gaps now broken out by region. So that big gap that I saw globally is now made up of the sum of the gaps that I see here in my pipeline deltas between Einstein, what Einstein is saying and what the field is saying. So I see that I got a big gap in the U.S. I got $36 million gap in the U.S. I'm going to go ahead and click into the U.S. and let's see what additional information we can find out. I see that I'm 129 in on the U.S. so far for the year on a quota of 204. My Einstein weighted pipeline is coming in at 171, and here's I can see that big gap represented here, right? My field is telling me that it's 207. I've potentially got another 28 million out there that I cannot yet see in my pipeline, and my Einstein total forecast is coming in at 199 million. So I really want to explore this a little bit more, and I can also see that as I was looking at my various product gaps, I still see accessories is particularly low in the U.S. and tablets are very low in the U.S. So I'm gonna look out for those deals that are U.S. based and that have those particular products on them. That's going to be a big area of interest for me. So I'm going to explore my pipeline in a little bit more detail. And what this is going to do, it's going to take me to my manager's opportunity lightning console. And I can see here that I'm going right to the U.S. I can see the same metrics that I was looking at before. And now I can see across my team. I can see all my RVPs here in the U.S. I've got Julie, Daraf, Eric. I got Harold. I see a pretty big gap on Julie, so that's interesting. I'm going to come back to that. I can see how the whole team is trending against their quota line. A lot of information there. I'll probably filter that down to look at it in more detail. And really interestingly, I can see some of the top positive contributors and some of the top negative contributors to what's driving my Einstein forecast. So I can start to look for some patterns in the U.S. right now. I can see the partners that we're working with. I can see that we're having executive meetings. I can see that we're developing business value assessments. So those are good things. I can also see that there's a number of opportunities out there where we don't have executive meetings in place. I can see where we have some close dates that are past due. I can see that we have deals out there in commit stage, but we have no quotes attached. And we've recently implemented some methodology changes in our sales organization to make sure that some of these things are actually in place. So the fact that they're not and that Einstein can't see those things, I can understand why those forecasts are a little bit lower from an Einstein perspective versus my field. I want to make sure that we're following the right processes here and just doing the right things. So I've got a pretty big gap on Julie, as I said. I'm going to go ahead and click into Julie. A couple things happened here which are really interesting. First of all, I can see the updates for Julie's team. So all my information has now faceted on Julie's team. I can see the reps all on Julie's team, and I can see where their gaps to target are. Again, most of the team seems to be pretty close to their quota. I've got a few folks that are a little bit under. I got a massive gap on Laura Garza, though. That's really interesting. I want to check that out. I can also see the top positive and negative contributors around Laura's opportunities. And I see that I've got a few executive meetings that just have not taken place. I got committed deals out there where there's no approved quote attached. And looks like I've got some escalated cases as well. That's something I might want to dig into. By the way, you might have noticed when I clicked on Julie Chavez and I started looking at Julie's team, I've got all of Julie's opportunities here as well. I could dig into each one of these opportunities individually. I'm not quite ready for that yet. I really want to understand what's going on with Laura. So I click into Laura, I toggle over, and I can start to see some of the gaps between what Einstein is saying and what Laura is saying across her deals. And the one that jumps out to me right out of the gate is Ramcor, right? Einstein is weighting that at 1.9 million. Laura's got that weighted at 4.8. And I look down here at the opportunities, and I can see that Ramcor is in at 6.3 overall. So that's pretty interesting. I want to isolate in on that. And then here I can see some of the insights from Einstein, right? I can see the details of the opportunity. And then I can also see, here's the weighting from Einstein. Here's some of those reasons that are driving it. Okay, we see some of these patterns driving down now to a level that's actionable. I see that we don't have a quote on this one, even though it's in commit stage. I see that we do have an escalated case on it, and it doesn't look like we've had an exec meeting. I certainly haven't been in front of the customer yet. So that's really interesting. I can do a couple things here. I can action this in a number of ways. I could explore the opportunity in more detail if I wanted to, but I don't want to do any guesswork here. I just want to get a deal review. So I'm going to go ahead and action this opportunity. And I'm going to request a deal review, right? So we can go ahead and schedule a deal review right here, or I can create a task for Laura to schedule one with me. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to look at this opportunity from the perspective of Laura. So I've logged into Salesforce as Laura. I've started going through my opportunities. I've got weekly forecast calls that I'm preparing for. And I come across my opportunity here for Ramcor, and I see that what Einstein is recommending it as a probability for this deal is certainly not what I'm forecasting. And I can see some of the reasons why. I can see some of the same things that my VP was seeing. And this is not going to play well on my call, right? So I better get a handle on this. So I immediately see that I've got an escalated case. That's something that I probably need to figure out very quickly. And I can see here on the related cases for this opportunity that I've got a laptop recall. And the laptop recall affects this opportunity. And so I'm going to go ahead and rally my customer success manager. I'm going to call my support team. I'm going to understand what's going on with this laptop recall. We're probably going to need to get an executive meeting with the customer to make sure we're doing the right things. And by the way, that'll also help my my issue out there without having the right executive contacts in place. The other thing I can do is I can look at other open cases that are out there. I can see the overall pipelines, the overall pipeline that I have with my customer here at Ramcor, and I can make sure that I'm not just fixing an issue one time. We're doing the right things overall for the relationship. In addition to that, I do see that I've got a deal review scheduled. As I look at my activities here, it looks like I've got an urgent deal review that's been scheduled. And I may have been notified by that in chatter or in Lightning as well, or excuse me, on email. And so I'm going to get this scheduled ASAP. And I'm going to make sure I get the right people in place from across the organization to make sure we fix the issue. So this is an example of the experience as we think about it from a manager perspective, we think about it from a rep perspective, and not just in sales, by example. We can think about it, how do we quarterback our entire organization on behalf of our customers?